Shout out time. Just leaving church. Happy Resurrection Day. I know this is probably going to be a longer video, but to those that are just looking for the quick shout out, not a shut up, shout out to young adults ministry group, young adults ministry at Restoration Chapel, Middlefield, Ohio. They had Mr. Tapser decided to have some testimonies go up this morning at church, and it wasn't until maybe a few testimonies in, well, probably a couple in, that I got. I had the reason, right? I'm in my testimony giving phase, which is very difficult because I'm not used to it at all. But I didn't really know what to say, right? I had no idea what to say, and then I remembered what happened this past Friday, right? So every Friday, young adults gets together at Restoration Chapel and has their gathering, right? They have a nice little group discussion. I think it's different every time. This is my second time visiting these guys, and guess what? That's all it took for absolute endless gratitude and thankfulness to just completely overflow me. That's kind of where I like to start when I guess so far when I give my testimony. I have to give gratitude. So just for reference, I was baptized, let's say, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago at Restoration Chapel. A couple weeks later, 3 weeks later, Tap did it again. He offered out, who wants to give testimony? Felt the Spirit moving, just giving thanks for all those who were present and there to love and support and just support. Really, that's what it is. Even if you weren't there that Sunday, there's still that much gratitude. Mainly because the struggle being, if you don't know me at all, my main struggle, at least nowadays, is reconnection, getting involved with community and just interaction with people. It's that difficult. Some of you, if you are watching this, that know me from the gym per se, might see this as a little bit odd or different because, quite honestly, the gym's just a little bit more easy going for me to express myself. I do have a past. It's very difficult. I'm going to go into that more and more so. I think this is going to be a little lengthy, which is, kind of like a little ironic thing because I don't like taking up too much time, especially during a church service, to talk about something like my testimony, something that I could ramble on for a while, but just don't know how to express at times. So gratitude. Don't worry, I'm going to circle back around to our youth group pretty soon. But gratitude for all those that actually, hang on, I actually got to figure out where I'm going real quick. Okay, I'm good. Got a 45-minute drive ahead of me, so we got time. Let's see. Gratitude for those that were present and all those at Restoration Chapel who've just shown endless love and support. More so, I kind of want to say thank you to God. Gratitude to God for putting you people, if you are watching this and from the chapel, for putting you people in my life and giving me such love and support. It's necessary, it's needed, and I cannot show gratitude enough. It'll never be enough. Which leads me to the next bit of the story. I think I hit one Sunday service at the chapel before I decided to check out the young adults ministry. Young adults hit me, right? So if you're one of the young adults, thank you for your patience, first of all. It's been 5 minutes, which is already probably 4.5 minutes longer than what some people may be used to as far as watching videos. So thank you for your patience and acceptance. Really, it's just the same thing. Gratitude to God for putting your guys' all of you that love and support and have been so patient with me, right? Because I know the character that I'm dealing with, right? I mean, at least, I have some understanding of the issues, of the difficulties, struggles, the problems. I know my struggles way more than I know my I don't even know what they're called, right? My goodnesses, my talents, so to speak, my talents and skills. But yeah, it's been a very long journey for me. So the very first time I went to the Restoration Chapel's young adult ministry was a struggle, right? I have a thing for young adults, even more so. I have a thing for kids, but kids like in their singles, right? Even young teenagers. But even then, that's very difficult for me because I know teenagers even struggle. Well, I mean, that's when I started really struggling, just consciously making bad decisions. But I love kids because they're just completely expressive and they just have this energy, this natural emotion, and they just don't care what people think. And that's just something that I have lost. I've lost it, right? I absolutely care what people think. I don't like thinking about judgments and assumptions because of the past that I have, right? And the first time I went to the chapel for young adults, I had a panic attack. I don't know if anybody noticed. I had to go into a separate room, but I had an immense panic attack, and it was actually. It was one of the individuals involved in the young adults ministry that was there to help support. Shall remain nameless. They know who they are. Doesn't matter. Shout-outs are shout-outs. I'd rather give them to a whole rather than individuals. But that person knows who they are, and I couldn't have been more thankful. Like, it's funny because what he did for me is exactly what I'll be doing for others in the future. One of my skills that I've picked up and learned over the years, or one of the areas of life that I've kind of come to just a love for, are those who have what am I trying to say? It's the skill of helping those get over things like emotional trauma, mental traumas, even physical traumas. But that to me, that's where I need to take the time out to become, the doctor that God has always put on my heart, but will take a lot more time to so-called get that degree. I fully believe that one day I will be a healer of some sorts. I'm somewhat of a prophetic healer in a way. I think that's something that God has put in me. That I have not even barely began scraping the surface of getting this skill down. But I've also been experiencing what it's like on the other side, right? So emotional trauma, just things like anxiety and depression and stress, all these, let's just say, negative emotions that we like to, or that we just don't like to feel. I've developed plenty, and I've put this on myself, right? I've mentioned to you guys, or to some of you may know me to be a bit of a nomad, a bit of a rebel at times. I have to touch the stove in order to realize that it's hot. It's just the way it is. I have to experience life's difficulties and struggles in order to realize what I should not be doing at times, not much for following, but I can. But yeah, I wanted to give. Yeah, this is a mixture of just thank yous and testimonies. I wanted to give the groups at the individuals at the Young Adults Ministry, Restoration Chapel, many bits of gratitude for being kind, caring, supportive, loving, compassionate, right? It's been very difficult. Know this. It's been an extremely difficult life for me. Most of the time, I have been condemned for expressing who I feel I truly am, right? When I express myself completely, 99,000 times out of 99, I get rejected, right? It just is the way it is. No, it's not is the way it is. Or at least I feel. Let me clarify, because I don't want to condemn those that have actually loved me, but perhaps not in the way that I maybe need to be loved or want to be loved, right? This is a very big gray, double-edged sword sort of way. So I want to make sure that I'm coming at this properly and not condemning anybody. But everybody requires a certain style of love. Everybody requires a certain level of support. Everybody expresses themselves in their own unique ways. And growing up, let me just say, all I can remember are rules. All I can remember are thou shalts. Thou shalt be this, or thou shalt do this, and thou shalt not do this, right, or not do that, right? That's all I remember. And obviously, obviously, the true Christian knows that it's not about what you do that matters. It's not about how good you are that matters, right? All that matters is Jesus, right? Jesus and God, Son of God, sacrificing his life for you, you repenting from that which you've done and forever will do, and accepting Jesus as the only way. Your Lord and Savior is a common way, but as the only way to God. And from that acceptance, you take little steps to better yourself. But the rest of it just doesn't matter, right? Bettering yourself is just, it's not about bettering yourself. You better yourself so that you can better others, right? It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about getting better on the inside, using Jesus as the pathway to bettering yourself so that you can go out and better others, right? If you're not bettering yourself, then it's very, I don't know, I find it difficult to better others. To me, I think independence is the stepping stone to interdependence, but interdependence is the meaning to it all. Just to throw it out there, I have a small struggle about giving and receiving when it comes to giving more than you have, right? This is just something I question. It's not about my testimony. But a common thing that's always run through my head was, if I were to say that I was living completely in alignment with God and Jesus, then I should be giving more than I'm receiving. The factual, knowledgeable, the realistic mathematical individuals say that's impossible, right? You can't give more than you receive, because then you'll run out. You'll run out of like energy, right? Even if you give like 51%. I've always believed that if I built a business on my own, whether it's with somebody or just on my own, I would end up giving or putting back into the business. I would end up giving back 51% straight up out of like donations or opportunities to grow someone else's business, right? And the rest goes back in. Whereas most businesses believe you need to put it in at least 50%, right? That's usually the common standpoint. Anyway, not important. To go back words into testimony land. The struggle has been real, folks. It really has been. It's funny. First 18 years, I've always wanted to say this on stage as a testimony portion. Maybe this is just me preparing myself to do so, but it's funny seeing as the first 18 years of my life, I've been on stage, right? I've had eyeballs locked on me for the first 18 years of life. And guess what? I enjoyed it. Or I enjoyed it, right? I was in acting, I was in theater, I was in pop ensemble, which is dancing and singing. I was in choir for years. I loved being the center of attention. I loved being in the eyes, especially around my family. Like I would get more so, when it comes to family, I kind of stopped being myself. Maybe like at the age of 10, right? I started doing. I was prescribed medication at the age of 7, and ever since then, beautiful vulture. Ever since then, my mind had began to shift, right? The drugs that I was prescribed put me in turned my character in such a way to where I wasn't as expressive, right? I kind of turned off the soul of myself and ended up becoming this sort of follower, this carer of what people thought of me, and I started thinking how to be someone that I thought people wanted me to be. This is at the age of 7, folks. This is well before teenage years. By my teenage years, I had began to rebel. It wasn't abundantly clear, right, to my family that I would rebel, even though they knew that I was kind of against the grain. But I just hated it. I just mentally knew that what I was becoming wasn't really myself. But it was by teenage years, it was almost too late. I was involved with drugs. I was involved with following this role model, this style of character that I just thought people would, because people build this idea in you that you're supposed to be an adult in the future. You're supposed to go to college, and you're supposed to get a wife and kid, right? And that's something you hold out to. That's something you get disciplined to do, right? You're supposed to be in control of your life. Folks. My testimony, my word of advice, be a child. Be a child forever. Let your inner child babble the nonsensical words and feelings that it has until you get it out. It's not like you're going to be a child forever. Don't worry. That childlike energy can be disciplined. But for some, it was disciplined too early, in my opinion. I'm of the opinion that never mind. Doesn't matter. I am not a father. I am not a parent. And I think it'll be a while before I have kids, because my opinions right now are not necessarily right or accurate. But it's more or less a transition into the way of training and teaching that I will soon end up being involved with. I love kids' energy. It's very difficult for me to tell a child, or to think that telling a child to sit down, shut up, don't talk during service. You know, little things, very little things like that are necessarily good. Children are emotional for a reason, and their emotions don't necessarily lie, but they can be misleading, right? Or at least how we respond to the emotion may be a little bit misdirected and misguided. So I am. Wow, it's hot in here. Hang on. I am. I'm not a counselor at all. I'm not a leader when it comes to this emotional teaching, right? I don't like considering myself a teacher or a leader because I'm still going through it, right? When I have anxiety, I get it hard. And usually it comes when I'm around individuals that have energy, right? That's why it's difficult for me to be around young adults, because young adults have passion. Young adults are energetic. They've got this passion for life that's youthful and lively, and usually can't be tempered with, because passion is just a burning rage that we all just, it's really hard to push it down. And when we do push it down, it hurts. It literally is hurtful to our soul. This is where things like depression comes into play. And when I see young adults be passionate, it's actually painful for me. It's painful because of the passion that I have siphoned away for years, folks, for years, right? The first 18 years of my life, I may have been on stage, but for the first 7, I was really only myself. And then from like 13 to 18, I was starting to hide, right? I would sing, but it would be because I liked to sing, but it would not be the way I would like to have expressed myself. I was never able to praise in church the way I've never praised in church the way I praise in my car, the way I praise in the gym, right? When I am at my best, I am worshiping, going nuts at the gym, just being present, right? For those that have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And I don't mean to come off as lukewarm, right? Because lukewarm is definitely something that I don't think Jesus is a fan of. But please know that it's not that I'm coming off, it's not that I am lukewarm, which I do identify with. I know I am not myself in front of people because I have developed a character that feels much better on my own, right? I have become so independent that I've coined the term hyper-independence, which is a thing nowadays. Hyper-independence is more or less the way Jesus took time to himself, but we do it now just way too much. No, that's actually inaccurate. That's way inaccurate, right? I keep on forgetting the term, but we discussed it in present. Solitude, there it is, right? So being isolated from the world isn't necessarily the way to be. But being in solitude with the self, with the soul, and being present with the Lord is absolutely the goal, right? It's okay to take time to yourself, but it's not okay to it's not necessarily okay to run away. And I know I'm going to have those that believe in this idea of introvertedness, right? We coin these terms, introverted and extrovertedness, and we began to identify with them. Literally, the definitions of introvert and extrovert are defined as being a genetic predisposition. Like you can't change whether or not you're an introvert or extrovert. That is an absolute lie, folks. Being an introvert just means you prefer to be on your own. But it does not mean that that is accurate in the sense that as a human being, we are meant to be with other people. It doesn't mean that you can't have time to yourself. What it means is that you will get more trauma from being away from people than you will from being with people. And if you do prefer more time on your own, maybe this is a little bit uneducated, right? Maybe this is a little bit of not so true information. But as humans, we are meant to be in the presence of others. When we go inside, when we go into the moments of solitude, it's not wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is, the more you need it, the more it seems as if there's more struggle to overcome. Right? And this is just from experience, so I don't want to seem as if I'm condemning anybody. So what happened to me was, I realized around the age of 26 years old, that I couldn't handle people anymore. Up until that point, I was surrounded by... No. Yeah. I was so surrounded by so much influence. I was surrounded by so many, both good and bad people, right? Mostly good, right? Even my family, even though it's hard to, let's say, please them at times. It's not like they're bad people, right? They mean well, but they have very high standards. They have very high standards, very different standards than what I'm used to. Let me pause this, check for my... All right, cool, we're good. It's very hard. First of all, pleasing others is just not the way to go, folks. It isn't. But I did it until I was 25, and then I couldn't handle it anymore. I just couldn't. I didn't get a degree, I'm sorry, but I was in college, which is not. The style of college nowadays is not for me. I had worked 90-hour work weeks, doing things that I did enjoy doing, but not necessarily what I was designed for. You know, I became a personal trainer. I was in school. I was in the military. I was working a 40-hour week job, all at the same time, right? 90-hour week were not just long, but they were fun. They were fun because I did actually get a feeling of direction. I had a little bit of sense of clarity in my early 20s, but I got burnt out. I got burnt out real quick. So I had to leave, folks. I had to get out. This is where the journeys of hyper isolation began. I would venture off. I would leave. What do you call it? Right? I would become a nomad, right? If there's a label to say, I would become a nomad. I would pack a bag, put it on my backpack. I would put it on my back, and I would just walk. I would walk around the country, literally. I would walk around the country. I would soon buy a bike, and I would bike places. I would travel the country for years, to the point where I would end up in jail, plain and simple. So if you follow me this long, and you're a young adult and you don't know my story yet, Jesus has already forgiven me. So, boom. All right, I've got a lot, folks. So it's a very difficult story to come out and just express openly and just be like, yeah, I've fucked up. But the thing is, when I started those journeys, I was in the most present moments with God. I was in such real solitude. I was at peace. I was so at one with God than I could ever imagine to be, nowadays. Please don't. I felt it, right? I had gone from just being cut off from God, in my early 20s, don't get me wrong, I still had a relationship with God, and I thought I was following the right path, but obviously it just wasn't. It wasn't the path that He had actual planned for me. When I went out into the wilderness, right, when I became the alchemist, when I became the nomad, I was in the present moment, and then short time after, I had become addicted. I had become addicted to the solitude, straight up. Like, I had gone on another journey, and then I went on another journey, and then I went on another journey, and then the journeys ended me up in jail. That's how addicted I became. I only should have done one, right? If I don't want to say should have, like it was a bad thing. Sorry, my term's a little bit messed up. I did not, I don't regret, I'm thinking repent, but I don't regret who I became. But I do recognize where I had my failures, and one of the failures was that I literally got addicted to leaving. Oh my gosh. Man, if a semi's, never mind. I am driving. It's not my necessarily comfort zone right now. I became addicted to leaving the country and to leaving the area that I was in, and it came back around, right? It bit me in the ass, and from there, I had to get a little bit more grounded in independence, right? Being able to go out gave me the strength to believe in myself again. Believe that I could do it on my own, right? I became independent, right? I was able to venture off. I broke away from the so-called father. I broke away from the parental figures of the parental pressure, right? Of going after that which I thought they needed me to be. This could be picked up in the podcast I had with my father pretty recently, which was absolutely necessary for me to do. Just letting him know that at that time of breaking away, I was breaking away from the barriers that I held on to with my parents. By the time I reached 30, I had nearly lost all hope in this idea of venturing off and trying to become the man that I thought God wanted me to be. I had done 5 years of just straight up journeying around the world, trying to make money via a job every once in a while, and doing it on my own. And then I gave up again. Straight up, I gave up and got lost. Not necessarily lost. I still was wandering. I think I got lost this past winter. But I just kept on wandering again. Like, relationship with God wise, I just didn't know where to go anymore. Like, early 20s, I thought I was following God. Nope, wrong path. late 20s, I thought I was venturing off to find God. Found him. Apparently I didn't find the right God. Whatever that means. After, into my 30s, I'm pretty sure I nearly gave up. I gave up the whole idea of looking for God. Sorry. I'm gonna have to check on my coursing. I gotta be honest, y'all. I got 5-10 minutes before I gotta check my GPS for consistent accuracy. So I'm gonna try and wrap this up. I want to bring this until I got to Restoration Chapel to actually circle around. But for those that are still following, God bless you. I really appreciate it. But in my 30s, I gave up. I gave up looking for God. I still had faith. You know, it's not like I've ever lost the belief that God is in control and what God is doing. No. Yeah, in my 30s, I stopped thinking that what God was doing was really accurate. This is where I became a rebel against God. I could never become an atheist, but I became a martyr. Is that the right word? No, I don't think that is. Maybe a martyr for God? I have to look at the definition on that one. I condemned God. Plain and simple. I got upset with God enough to where I should be burning in hell for eternity. Straight up. Like, I do not deserve a second anymore. So up until last year, I gave up, started giving up the things that I was really holding on to. That being, a big one being drugs, right? I told you that by the age of 7, I was under the influence. Prescribed influence, right? That's what I call it. I call it a prescribed influence of underneath a drug, right? I was told that drugs would make me better. Talk about a gateway drug. Mine was a prescription. And it sucked. It led to a myriad of drugs. And drugs, if you've never heard me talk about the idea of drugs, I put nearly everything under the umbrella of drugs. So drugs is just another term for drugs are addiction. So whatever you're addicted to it, it's a drug. Our phones, our TV, sex life, gambling, all these things are all just drugs. Things that we just can't break away. The short-term pleasures. And they're endless, right? I need to start looking at my GPS. Right. Sorry, folks. But in my 30s, beginning of my 30s, nearly everything became a drug. I did not care. I stopped caring. And then up to about last year. Last year, I finally picked up the reins and decided to clean myself up. I paid a hefty price. I paid a very hefty price to clean myself up. Little did I know that I would fail. Inevitably, I would eventually go back under the influence of some short-term pleasures. Because life would smack me in the face, essentially, right? I was clean and sober from nearly all of my addictions, right? I was clean and sober for a while, and I was on a real good, I was on a real good line of serving God the way I thought, again, that He wanted me to serve, not doing any of the bad and even doing some of the good. I was even searching for God. Hang on. Found it. Right, so I was even searching for God, and I knew that God was the way, and I was reminded that the only way is through Christ Jesus, and that He's the way, the truth, and the life, right? Nothing had really changed in my brain to think that, I'm better. Or no real mental beliefs had really changed in my brain, but I was doing better, right? This is last year. Sorry, I'm braking, so it's like I gotta remember where I'm going. I was doing better. I was doing good things, and I was not doing bad things. And I was putting what I thought was God first. I was making him my priority in life. This is where, at times, I believe I struggle with the ability of understanding what it means to be all in, to sacrifice, to put God first, put Jesus first, and be all in, right? One way Jesus, right? Because feelings don't necessarily matter when it comes to serving God. Whether you feel it or not, your job is to serve. Plain and simple. Your job is to sacrifice. And guess what? Sacrifice does not always feel good. So last year, I ended up failing again and just giving into temptation, giving into peer pressure. And then I cleared my name. No. I cleared it, and then things got difficult. So I failed again. And then this past winter happened. This past winter, I'm not going to go into it, but I officially coined it that I got lost. I absolutely got so dark and deep that I got lost. And it was not good, right? To put it simply, I tried taking my life. It is what it is. And that's not the first time. It's just not the first time. But this past winter, it was difficult enough to where when I came out, or it was dark enough to where now I am on this path. I am on what feels like the right path, but time will tell. Being baptized was big. And I don't even know if anything, nothing gigantic. It wasn't like it was old versus new, or at least I haven't been able to preach it in that sort of way yet, because the story hasn't been written. But I decided to go all in spiritually. Ever since then, I've had God first at the forefront all day, every day. I'm afraid for what happens when things get difficult. But I can tell you right now that I have never been this consistent. It's only been almost 2 months. Last year I was doing pretty good. I had about four solid months. Yes, it got difficult at one point, but I still worked through it. This year is going to be a very big year. Let me tell you, for those that are unaware, as I identify as a prophetic, I've already forgotten. I don't want to say disciple. I kind of see myself as a somewhat of a prophet, if anything. I'm not. Only because I see myself as John the Baptist quite a bit. Yeah, I really do. I see what's coming. I'm not really good with timing, right? I don't always know when things happen. But I can tell you now that this is the year to where I am under the influence that connection is 100% essential. Connection's the answer this year. Like, that this is my testimony. If there's any sort of I don't know, wisdom maybe, or some sort of guidance that I give. And I don't like to give guidance because I like to think that I don't know the truth. I don't know the answers. But if I am to come at you from a prophetic way, I will say that this is the year to where we as Christians need to support each other. We need to connect with one another. We need to support each other. We need to put others first. We need to help each other out so hardcore, more than ever before. It's others first. It's not even others first. It's others, only others, right? Because I believe that in a sense, we could give everything as Jesus did. We could give 100%. And somehow, by the miracle of God, you will receive from others, because everybody's giving, you will receive everything that you deserve. All right, I see the little guys looking. They're in the house. I don't know if you could tell them, but those are the kids. I got to go see them. Bless up, live expressively. The Wiz is out.